Hey, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to the full-time travel planning series. In today's video, I had to pull out the Hawaiian shirt because I'm going to be sharing with you how I plan an itinerary, and it felt quite fitting. And so in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to get all of the right recommendations and the best recommendations you can get when you're visiting a new destination. So this itinerary plan is not for your whole full-time travel. It's about if you decide you're going to Malaysia, for example, and you want to figure out, well, I don't know anything about Malaysia, but I've always wanted to go. So where do I go? What cities do I go to? Where do I stay? What do I do? You know, all those questions. How do I get to and from the airport? What's the best airline to take? What airports do I fly into? So many questions, right? So I'll be straightforward that it is a little bit of extra work what I do, rather than just going into a country blind, which sometimes can be fun to find things out on your own. I don't want to discount that at all. But knowing some things that can save you money, especially if you're doing this on a budget, is always nice. So even for those of you that don't like to plan your itineraries, this might help you figure out at least some ways to save some money, so you don't have to use every piece of this itinerary plan, but maybe some parts and pieces of it might make a lot of sense for you. So I'll explain you kind of my structure on how I go through this, and then I'll also share in the description below the link to my Evernote, which you can go ahead and copy and paste this if you would like, and you can use this to go ahead and start planning your itineraries. Alright, so let's run through the process. Now, I'm sitting in Thailand right now, and I'm just thinking, well, I think I want to go visit Malaysia. That sounds like a great place to go to. I don't know where to go, what to do, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start through my itinerary planning process. So what I do is I go and I make a copy into my Evernote of my basically template on how to create an itinerary. So my first step is obviously choose the country. Second step is to put together the template. Now my next step is to go ahead and go onto Facebook and type in friends in Malaysia. The reason why I do this is because my first step is always to see if I know anyone who lives there. Personally, with most of the experiences I've had, people that live in the city have always given the best recommendations. Usually it surpasses blogs and vlogs, but when you put all these things together, it gives you the ultimate itinerary. We'll get there though. So that's why the first thing to do is find out who you know there. Then I go ahead and curate a quick message for each one of them that I know who lives there. Hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna be coming and visiting Malaysia during this time frame. First of all, I would love to see you if you're going to be there, so that's a big thing. You might have someone who can show you around. Second of all, if you're not available, I would love to know if you have some recommendations you can give me on places to go in the country, or cities to go to, things to do within those cities, any transportation recommendations, etc., etc. Now, it's a bit of a favor, so make sure you give ample time. Some people might want to give you a huge amount of information, so you got to give them some time. So I wouldn't do this the day before you go to Malaysia. Try and do it a couple weeks out and let them know that, hey, I'm not going for a couple weeks, so whenever you get a chance. This will ensure they can give you the most amount of information possible, and they're not rushed to just give you, hey, well, go to this restaurant or do that. Usually, if they have the time, they're going to give you more thought through recommendations, and they'll appreciate having the extra time. And that's at least from my experience thus far. So after I've started to receive information from the people I know who live there, I start to copy and paste all of it into my Evernote, and I kind of just basically bullet point under each section. So let's say I'm going to Kuala Lumpur. I got a bunch of recommendations on what to see. Then I have recommendations on food to try or restaurants to try. Then I have recommendations on, you know, what airport to fly into, you know, what transportation service should I use? Should I take the train, subway, metro? Obviously, you're not always going to get all this information because not everyone knows this information that you're reaching out to, but you'll at least have a rubric to start infilling the information you can find out. Obviously, if you don't have any friends in the country that you're looking up, well, obviously just skip the step. And then that brings me to the next step. Try and think back to any friends you might know who have visited any of these countries. Chances are they've done some things you might have your eye on. They found some things that aren't as good as maybe the internet says they are. And so they might have some great resources to share with you. So I follow that same procedure. I get the information back from any friends that have been there. I input any information or recommendations they have in there. Now I've basically exhausted everyone that I might know who could give me some true, honest opinions on this place that I'm thinking about visiting, Malaysia. For some of you, you might have gone through both of those last two steps and said, well, I don't have anyone that I know who's been there. I don't know anyone who lives there. That's okay though. I just want to make sure that you can get as many recommendations as possible. Sometimes, on my next point here, will be about blogs and vlogs. Sometimes there can be a bit of influence if companies paid to be, within a certain blog post. Certain blogs are paid by companies to be, hey, this is the top 10 best things to do. That's just the nature of blogging. I try not to do that personally in my blogs. I try and keep them as, hey, these are the things that I truly recommend. I personally, at this point, at the time of recording this, have never been paid by someone to put their top thing to do. But once again, some bloggers, they do charge companies because that's how they make their living. It is what it is. That being said, I try and use blogs and vlogs as my third resource, my third go-to, which is what I still recommend to go through no matter what, even if you have friends or family that have been or lived in any of these countries, or Malaysia in this example. I still go ahead and look up blogs and vlogs because a lot of the times you can still find so many helpful tips. You can find, transportation in Malaysia. You can find best time to visit or best time of the year to visit. You can find all these different types of things, usually curated in a very nice blog post or video blog, or vlog as they're called these days. Meanwhile, I'm copy and pasting some of those notes into my ultimate itinerary. Now I have all of this kind of raw information on, all right, here's Kuala Lumpur, here's all the information I need to know, where to stay, the best neighborhoods, what hotels or hostels to stay in. All of that information is in one place, one easy to find place for me that now I can reference. So there's one of two ways to approach the next step to this. If you're only going for a week or 2 weeks or just a short period of time, but you have a lot of things you want to fit in, this is when I would go ahead and do a little bit of planning out my days. I would say, hey, within the first and fourth day in Malaysia, I want to be in Kuala Lumpur. The next 5th through 9th day, I want to be in Penang. I would start putting together a rough itinerary of what I want to do during that time. The more constrained I am on time, the more I'm going to plan it out usually. Now, if I'm going somewhere with an open itinerary, I probably would skip this step altogether. I would say, hey, I'm gonna go to Penang with an open itinerary, and here's all the things I wanna do, but I don't know how long I'm gonna stay. So for now, I'm just gonna have that list, and I'm gonna make sure I go to all those things, but not on any specific schedule. That's obviously the most flexible. But I would recommend, if you're gonna be on a very tight time budget, let's say, to go ahead and plan your days a little bit just to make sure you hit all the things that you truly want to hit and the things people have recommended to you for your benefit. Last thing I would add is maybe you're connected with quite a few people on social media who you can go ahead and just post on your Insta story or on your Instagram or your Facebook, whatever it is, and say, hey, I'm gonna be visiting Malaysia. Do you have any recommendations for me? Is there anyone in my network who currently lives there? You might be quite surprised to find you have people there. I had an instance when I was in Argentina. I posted on my Instagram story, and there was a fellow blogger who happened to be living in Argentina, and I met up with him for a night. He gave us a totally awesome Argentina experience, showed us around Buenos Aires, told us all about the culture. Like, that was one of my highlights. Obviously, you can tell I'm smiling right now because it was just one of those moments where I was like, wow, like if it wasn't for Instagram, I would not have had this localized tour guide and friend to show me around. That anytime we're in the same place around the world, we're for sure gonna connect, hang out, have a couple cervezas, and have a great time. So basically, leverage your social networks. They are so helpful. I'm telling you this from experience. It is awesome. And one more thing I wanted to mention about this itinerary. If you saw episode 4, I'm a big proponent in these books, or at least skimming through parts of them. You might want to take some of that information you have in here and also transfer it into your itinerary. That's all going to be super helpful. I won't talk too much about these books in this video, but go back and check out episode 4 if you would like to go ahead and learn more about how I see these books as way more beneficial than just a tourist book. So that's pretty much it in terms of creating the ultimate itinerary. It's not that much work, and it's a lot of fun, personally, in my opinion, to look up places I'm going to go and find all these cool things to do, reach out to old friends, and potentially sometimes I find people that I know who are living in those cities who can show me around. It's literally a win-win-win. So one last thing you might not have thought about is I get a lot of questions from friends who are going to a country maybe because they had seen one of my Instagram stories, or they just happen to be going to one of the countries that I went to, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember Mac went here, I'm gonna reach out to him for recommendations. The more places I've been to, the more often I get requests for this. While I fully love helping people, I also love to make sure I give them the highest quality of recommendations. And with that, it's a big time commitment. And the more places I go, the more people are asking me for recommendations. And I'm very grateful for that. The reason why I'm telling you this is these itineraries that I'm creating serve a purpose. Even after I leave Malaysia, now I have a buddy reach out to me, hey Mac, I just realized you were in Malaysia. Can you send me some recommendations? No problem, man. I just send them the recommendations template where I have everything I did in Malaysia. Maybe sometimes if I did certain things in there that I didn't like, I'll add a few comments in there or delete a few things, whatever, add a few things. Now I have this itinerary ready to give to any of my friends at any point, and it doesn't take me any extra work, and they're always so grateful because now they have this plethora of resources. So think about that. That just saved you so much time down the line when your friends are going to be visiting this location. Now you can just forward them on this itinerary. Now personally, I also create vlogs, blogs about these places too, so that's also supplemental. But some people aren't into blogs or vlogs, and I totally respect that, totally get that. But they are into, you know, just a quick notepad that shows them every single thing to do in that country. All right guys, that's pretty much it for my ultimate itinerary creation process. I really hope that helps you, or you can at least use bits and pieces. Once again, I'll put a copy of the template in the description below, and I just want to say thanks so much for keeping up with the travel series here. If you don't want to miss any more videos like this, hit that subscribe button below, and if you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you guys in the next video.